My whole family was texting me. I just want to apologize to the audience for this guy. Like,
I'm not a
always wanted to
talker.
have-
Ladies and gentlemen, grab your popcorn because the circus just caught fire. Gervonta, Tank Davis, didn't just throw punches. He threw shade, grenades, and possibly Jake Paul's entire career into the blender. Yep, you heard that right. Tank just looked straight into the influencer boxing matrix and said, "I'm taking your money, but I'm not following your script." Wait, what script? Oh, buckle up, because apparently Jake Paul's fights might be more scripted than a WWE love triangle. And now the internet's favorite chaos merchant just got exposed by a real fighter with real smoke in his gloves. This isn't just another boxing beef. This is Hollywood meets hood logic. This makes the Kardashians look like quiet librarians. This is ego versus authenticity. A YouTube millionaire trying to outbox a street legend who actually bites down on mouthguards for breakfast. And when Gervonta dropped that line, the internet froze harder than Elsa in Antarctica. DMs leaked, receipts popped up, and suddenly everyone's asking, is Jake Paul selling fights or fairy tales? Stay locked in because what you're about to hear next will make Logan Paul rethink his Prime sponsorship. So let's set the scene. Jake Paul, the self-proclaimed problem child. A man who went from Disney Channel to dissing real boxers, from vlogging fake pranks to punching real faces. He's made millions convincing the internet he's the second coming of Mike Tyson with Wi-Fi. And for a while, the hustle worked. He beat ex-MMA fighters, YouTubers, and even got pay-per-view numbers that made Floyd Mayweather blink twice. But here's the problem. When you live by the script, one real fighter can flip it. And that's exactly what Gervonta Tank Davis just did. Now, for those who don't know, Tank Davis isn't your average influencer boxer. This man grew up fighting before he could spell promoter. He's the kind of guy who shadowboxes at red lights and still scares people in slow motion. He's undefeated, unfiltered, and unapologetically real. The type of fighter Jake Paul prays to emulate, but only on Instagram. So imagine Jake sliding into Tank's circle, trying to set up a fight. Money on the table, hype in the air, the internet salivating like it's the second coming of Mayweather versus McGregor. But this time, something felt off. Because behind those million-dollar smiles and podcast bravado, Tank noticed something strange. Jake was
I kick ass for real.
God
What you
damn.
do? You just play around like, this regular.
That's what people want, brother. It's entertainment.
I can't even hear you.
Jake was talking more about storylines than strategies, more about viral moments than combinations. And the punchline? Gervonta wasn't laughing. That's when the line dropped like a thunderclap. "I'm taking your money, but I'm not following your script." Boom! The internet detonated like Jake's ego, and you could feel it. That slow, awkward silence on social media when people realize the truth might be uglier than a YouTuber's apology video. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, was Jake Paul scripting fights? Were his shock victories just influencer theater? Or did Gervonta just expose the biggest sports illusion since that time Logan Paul tried to convince us Prime was healthy? Because here's the thing, Jake Paul has always been a salesman first, boxer second. His entire empire runs on attention. The trash talk, the outfits, the fake respect after the fight. It's all cinematic. The man sells pay-per-view dreams like Netflix sells nostalgia. But Gervonta Davis, he's allergic to fake energy. He doesn't do scripts. He writes headlines, usually with someone's blood. So when he called Jake out, fans could feel the authenticity shaking through the timeline. Twitter, or whatever Elon's calling it this week, exploded. One fan wrote, "Jake tried to turn Tank into an NPC. Tank turned him into a meme." Another said, "Jake's fights got more plot twists than Keeping Up with the Pauls." Meanwhile, Jake Paul's PR team was sweating harder than a pastor at a strip club. They rushed to spin it. Suddenly, Jake's camp said, "It was just business talk, not a script." And my grandma's TikTok account is run by NASA. You can feel when a lie has been caught off guard. Jake's tone changed from cocky to careful. The same guy who used to say, "anyone can get it," suddenly sounded like, well, maybe not everyone, at least not Tank. And fans noticed. Comments flooded in like a tsunami of roast energy. Jake went from problem child to PowerPoint presentation. Tank just deleted the simulation. Bro, tried to fight a boxer and ended up fighting reality. This isn't just a beef. It's an exposure therapy session for Jake Paul's entire persona. Because for years, people whispered that his fights were too convenient. Like every opponent magically froze after one good shot. Every knockout looked ready for slow-motion sponsorship. But Tank saying, "I'm not following your script," that confirmed every conspiracy theory in one sentence. Think about it. Jake's fights always had the same formula: a flashy entrance, a viral face-off, dramatic predictions, and then, bam! A perfectly timed knockout, camera-friendly and meme-ready. It was the WWE of boxing, minus the honesty. But Gervonta Davis doesn't do Hollywood endings. He is the ending. And now Jake Paul looks like a magician who just got caught palming the card. The illusion shattered. The real fighter respect evaporated. Even the casual fans, the ones who buy fights just for drama, started to switch sides. Because suddenly, Gervonta became the hero we didn't know we needed. The man who looked at Jake Paul's empire and said, "Nice show. Shame it's fiction." And here's the best part. Gervonta didn't even need to fight him. Just the threat of reality was enough to make Jake trend for all the wrong reasons. Podcasters jumped in. Memes rained down. Sports commentators had field days. One analyst said, "If Tank..."
At the end of the day, I gave this little guy an opportunity. He should be thanking me. I'm paying him. I'm his boss. He reports to me, and I'm gonna his son him on November 14th. So you, little man.
If Tank fights Jake, it won't be a match. It'll be a documentary called The Death of Clout Boxing. Another said, "Jake's next move should be applying for acting school because boxing just filed a restraining order." And the internet. Oh, the internet was ruthless. They dug up clips of Jake's training, comparing it to Tank's highlight reels. One looked like a TikTok montage. The other looked like an action movie where the stuntmen actually die. The contrast was brutal. Jake's carefully crafted empire suddenly looked fragile. A glossy YouTube thumbnail cracking under real pressure. Because when a fighter like Gervonta Davis steps into your world and calls it fake, that's not beef. That's an obituary. And what makes it even juicier, there are rumors. Whispers that a leaked conversation showed Jake offering creative direction to opponents before fights. You heard that right. Not strategy, creative direction, as in, "Here's your motivation for round 3, champ." If that's true, then Tank's quote isn't just a jab. It's a nuke. Because for every real boxer grinding in sweat and silence, Jake Paul's approach feels like an insult to the sport. And Tank just became the spokesperson for every fighter who ever looked at Jake and thought, "Bro, this ain't content, it's combat." So when Gervonta said he'd take the money but not the script, it wasn't just a flex, it was a revolution. The boxing world hasn't seen this level of exposure since the Mayweather-McGregor payday circus. Except this time, one side's not laughing. And just when you thought it couldn't get wilder, the internet turned this whole script scandal into a full-blown digital demolition derby. The memes hit first. One went viral, showing Jake Paul holding a clipboard labeled "Fight Script, Cry in Round 3, Win in Round 4. Another had Gervonta Davis photoshopped as Thanos saying, "Reality is often disappointing." Brutal. The internet didn't just clown Jake. They turned him into the main character of a joke he didn't write. Meanwhile, Hollywood caught wind. Suddenly everyone had an opinion. Logan Paul tried to play peacekeeper, jumping into a podcast saying, "Jake's a real fighter. People don't understand the entertainment side." Translation: "Please stop messing with our family brand." But by then, it was too late. Tank had already infected the narrative like a virus in a Wi-Fi router. Every headline screamed, "Jake Paul exposed." Sports analysts who once hyped him as boxing's disruptor were now asking if he was boxing's biggest illusionist. And it got messy. Fast. Because once Gervonta cracked that script code, people started replaying old Jake Paul fights with CSI-level obsession. They slowed down knockouts, frame by frame, analyzing punch angles, crowd reactions, and referee movements like they were decoding the Zapruder film. "See that wink before the punch?" one user claimed. "That's the signal." Another said, "Why does every opponent fall the same way? Like a tree with Wi-Fi issues." The conspiracy storm was so wild that even Joe Rogan, yes, Joe Rogan, dropped a comment saying, "If Jake's scripting fights, he's either a genius or an idiot." And you know when Rogan's confused. The internet eats popcorn by the bucket, but here's where it gets even juicier. Apparently, a few insiders, and I use that term like TMZ uses sources, came forward whispering about pre-fight discussions Jake allegedly had with past opponents. Nothing confirmed, but the timing was suspiciously perfect. Gervonta's quote became the match that lit every rumor Jake thought was buried. Suddenly, Everyone from UFC fighters to rappers were chiming in. 50 Cent posted a meme captioned, "Jake writing scripts now. Call me, I direct better fights." Even Conor McGregor couldn't resist, tweeting, "The only script I follow is violence." You could practically hear Jake's PR team screaming in their offices, because the one thing you can't buy is authenticity. And Tank just exposed how expensive fake can look when a real one walks in the room. Even boxing legends started side-eyeing the influencer wave. Mike Tyson, the man Jake once idolized, posted a cryptic emoji, a clown face, followed by a boxing glove. No caption, no need. The internet did the math. Jake Paul had become the poster boy for clout over craft. And while he tried to spin it, posting motivational clips, talking about staying focused, it only fueled the fire. Because the fans didn't want inspiration, they wanted confession. They wanted Jake to say, "Yeah, I staged it." They wanted to see the empire admit its foundation was built on hashtags, not hand wraps. But Jake stayed silent, and silence online is basically guilt in HD. Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis was thriving. His interviews exploded in views. His merch sales spiked. Every time he said "real boxing," fans heard "Jake's a fraud." Tank didn't even have to throw a punch. His words did the knockout. It was poetic. The street fighter who came from nothing versus the influencer who turned everything into content. And what made it sting more? Tank didn't need to shout, didn't need a PR army. One raw sentence cut deeper than Jake's entire documentary series. Even sponsors started shifting. Brands quietly backed away from Jake's camp, scared of being associated with staged fights. You could practically hear boardroom panic. Does this make us look fake too? And while all this chaos unfolded, fans noticed one more thing. Jake Paul suddenly stopped calling out real boxers. The man who once screamed, "I'll fight anyone," started targeting influencers again. Coincidence? Maybe. But as Tank would say, if it quacks like a duck, the tables had turned. Jake went from boxing's disruptor to boxing's distraction. Because let's face it, for years, Jake thrived off drama. But now, the drama was eating him alive. The script he allegedly wrote became the story he couldn't control. And through it all, Gervonta Davis just stood there, smiling like a man who'd already won. He didn't need the headlines. The truth was headline enough. By now, Jake Paul's empire looked like a mansion built on quicksand. Shiny on top, but sinking fast. The same crowd that used to chant, "Jake's the future of boxing," suddenly switched up faster than a fake friend after a bank transfer. Because here's the truth. The internet loves you until it loves your downfall more. And when Gervonta Davis dropped that, "I'm not following your script" bomb, Jake became the villain in a movie he thought he was directing. Suddenly, everyone was scrubbing the real boxer label off his name like it was a bad tattoo. Comment sections turned into roast battles, memes endless. Jake holding a pen with captions like, "When you're better at writing knockouts than landing them." One tweet went viral saying, "Jake Paul's next fight is against his reputation." Meanwhile, Tank Davis just kept winning. Not in the ring, but in the court of public opinion. Every time Jake posted motivational quotes, Tank would post sparring clips with real punches. Every caption felt like a diss track, and the funny thing? Gervonta didn't even have to mention Jake's name again. The silence was worse than insults. Because silence from a killer is louder than a rant from a clown, Jake's camp tried to bounce back. They teased a massive new fight, leaked training footage, even hinted at a docu-series about truth in boxing. But no one was buying it. The fans were done with storylines. They wanted substance. And here's the savage irony. Jake Paul built a brand on proving the doubters wrong. But Gervonta didn't doubt him. He dismissed him, like a teacher ignoring a kid who forgot his homework. Even mainstream sports started shifting tone. ESPN panels that once hyped Jake's hustle started cracking jokes. One host said, "Jake wanted to fight legends. Turns out the legend was the scriptwriter." Another added, "Gervonta didn't just break the fourth wall, he broke the illusion." Meanwhile, Gervonta's quote became immortal. Fans printed it on t-shirts. It trended as a hashtag, No Script Zone. Suddenly, real fighters were using it as a badge of honor. One MMA fighter said, "I fight in Tank's universe now, unscripted only." And Jake? He became the face of what boxing feared most. Performance without passion. There's something poetic about that. The man who tried to merge content with combat ended up proving they don't mix. Because the moment real authenticity walked in the room, all the filters shattered. The craziest part? Jake's own followers started questioning everything. His wins, his knockouts, even his training partners. People posted side-by-sides of his punches versus Tank's punches like it was a documentary called The Difference Between YouTube and Reality. And deep down, Jake knew it. You could see it in his interviews. That subtle crack in the confidence. He started saying words like, respect the sport, still learning, and I just want to entertain. That's influencer code for, please stop roasting me. But the internet doesn't forgive. It forgets you after it finishes laughing. Meanwhile, Gervonta Davis walked away untouched. His fan base doubled, his respect tripled, and his quotes became cultural weapons. The man didn't just expose a boxer, he exposed an era. The influencer illusion was cracking, and Tank swung the hammer. Now, when people talk about Jake Paul's career, they don't mention victories. They mention scripts. Every future opponent gets asked, is it real or Jake-style real? Ouch. Because once someone questions your authenticity, your legacy becomes a punchline. And in a world obsessed with clout, Tank reminded everyone that some things can't be scripted. Power, pride, and pure violence. Jake Paul built an empire on the idea that boxing was entertainment. Gervonta Davis just reminded him, it's a war zone, not a movie set. And that's how one quote, one moment of raw truth, turned a YouTuber's fantasy into a public reality check heard around the world. Because sometimes, the knockout doesn't come from a punch, it comes from exposure, and there you have it. The moment Jake Paul's empire took a right hook from reality itself. Gervonta Davis didn't just expose a script, he rewrote the whole franchise. If boxing had a delete influencer mode, Tank just pressed it with a smile. So now the question is, what do you think? Was Jake really trying to choreograph history, or did Tank just call out the bluff of the decade? Drop your theories in the comments because we read every single one. Even the delusional Jake fans defending him like he's the YouTube Jesus of boxing. And while you're down there, smash that like button like it owes you money. Punch the subscribe button so hard it files for insurance. Because here, we don't follow scripts. We expose them. Every week, another untouchable gets touched, another legend gets fact-checked, and another influencer gets body slammed by truth. This is Legance Boxing, where clout gets KO'd, lies get jabbed, and reality always wins by unanimous decision. Stay tuned, stay savage, and remember, you can fake views, fake fame, even fake fights, but you can't fake getting hit by Gervonta Davis. Can't fake getting hit by Gervonta Davis.